Hello everyone, I'm Fozzie or Cam and I'm here as always with my co-host Will. How are you doing today, Will?
I'm doing great, Cam. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. We have a great episode for everyone planned today. We have just some important things we like to break down here on the podcast. Specifically, I wanted to start our podcast just again reiterating how happy I am that Drake May is the New England Patriots quarterback. How great is that, Will? I mean, despite throwing an interception this past game against the Buccaneers, he was still really nasty. He had a lot of amazing plays. He can extend plays. That's a big thing. If there's no one open, you bet he's gonna pick up a minimum 5 yard gain running the football with just himself, and that's really impressive. And that's something Mac Jones couldn't really do. It's something Tom Brady couldn't really do. I mean, he was also Tom Brady, so that helps. But it's something they didn't do that often. They just weren't that type of player. But you have Drake May here, who's a huge guy. He's a big guy. He can throw the football. He can run. What more can you ask for in terms of a quarterback? On a less quarterback centric note, though, Travion Henderson really broke out this past week for the Patriots. I mean, I didn't know a lot about him before the season, like about him in college, but I guess I mean we saw then he's really, really fast and really explosive. So I'm glad he finally had his game, and maybe this means Ramondre Stevenson might not be coming back to a running back one position open. I think Travion could definitely start to take over that spot. I don't know how comfortable Vrabel feels with that, just because he's so young, and Travion Henderson actually is injury prone, and he actually is kind of injured right now, despite him running for 2 touchdowns. So I don't know how that will affect it. And also, you have to remember Ramondre is also injured, so that's kind of a thing here. There were a few random injuries here and there I noticed this past week. I don't know why this game in particular happened to have that. I don't know. I think it's just we're starting to get to that point in the season where these guys, I mean, they're playing a lot of football right now, you know. They're taking a lot of hits, so it makes sense that they're starting to get more and more banged up. So that's to be expected, you know. So it's disappointing where I'm glad no major injuries right now. I'm glad Christian Gonzalez is fine after the other week's little injury he had against the Falcons. Seems to be doing good. Ramondre seems to be coming back, and even though, like I said, it might not even matter because we might have a new running back one. I've also other good NFL news. The Bills lost, which is great for us Patriots fans, just because we need the Bills to lose. We don't want the Bills to do good. We need to be number one. That's great. That really helps us, and it really helps the case for Drake May to be MVP. Will, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So traditionally, the most valuable player award has been reserved for quarterbacks. And I mean, usually rightfully so. A quarterback is what defines a team. You could have a bunch of good weapons. Just I mean, kind of look at the Bengals right now. And then you could have a mediocre quarterback and you can still kind of not do great as a team, even though the Bengals are kind of doing fine with Flacco. But before Flacco, if you have a bad quarterback, I mean, despite them having T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Chase Brown, they weren't putting up that much crazy numbers with Joe Burrow's backup. So, do you think it should be a kind of more common for other positions to win the MVP award? Because, like I said, you need a good quarterback to make a good team. But I mean, Jonathan Taylor, explosive, disgustingly nasty out there. That also has to be taken into account, I feel like. And I think it should start to be up for consideration more and more, throwing someone like a wide receiver or a running back into consideration, at least for MVP. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. This to me is one of those situations where I 100% want to see other positions besides just the quarterback position winning the NFL MVP award because I think there are other players aside from just quarterbacks who are incredibly worthy of winning that award. But then on the same hand, I just have a hard time seeing it ever happening. I think the NFL just seems to be so hyper fixated on giving that award to quarterbacks where even though I would love, 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 love to see a non-quarterback win it at some point, I have a hard time sadly believing that's going to actually happen.
Yeah, I do too. Just because there are, in all fairness, a bunch of good quarterbacks in the NFL this season. Drake May, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, despite them losing to the Dolphins this week, are all up for consideration for MVP. I mean, who else do you have in terms of quarterbacks? You got those three. Baker Mayfield, I think, is up in consideration. I've seen
Yeah.
Sam Darnold up for consideration from a lot of people, which I am so happy to see. I have to admit, I'm kind of a Jets hater. So when Sam Darnold was on the Jets, I was a Sam Darnold hater. But then when he went to the Vikings, I mean, he was on the Panthers for a minute, wasn't a fan of him there, went to the Vikings. Vikings were nasty. And I know this kind of makes me a bandwagon, I don't know. But I started to really like Sam Darnold. I like the underdog story. That's why I like Baker. That's why I have a lot of respect for those two. And it just shows you how horrible those franchises are. Oh my goodness. The Jets just it's player poison to go there. Look at Sauce Gardner. Poor guy was felt like he was in the trenches. He getting traded out. He was so happy, you know? And then you got the Browns. Baker Mayfield is a generational talent, I'd argue. And there he was wasting away in Cleveland for a horrible team. And now look at him. I mean, granted they lost Patriots, but still past two seasons he's been really good. He's been a really good player, you know? And you wouldn't know that if he stayed on the Browns. And you got to feel for Myles Garrett too, who's stuck with a team who's just atrocious while he's playing some of the best football of his entire career. But in terms of Myles Garrett and in terms of some of these players who were kind of stuck on bad teams, they probably could have gotten off of these teams, but they're being paid a lot. So technically, they chose money over what would be a championship, you know? That is an angle you could definitely look at it from, you know? So, I don't know. It's just something thinking about. And in terms of the MVP thing, I hope it just starts to get a little bit more common for people to be put in consideration because I feel like part of winning MVP is being in consideration. It kind of feels like he also won it, you know, because it gets to a level like the top five players in the NFL are all so good. You can kind of usually just spin a wheel and pick them, and people will be happy, you know, because they're just all that good. So I'm interested to see what happens from there, and I'm really excited about our Patriots. You have any thoughts about our win this week, Will?
I thought it was, I thought the win yesterday and the Bills win were the wins of the season by far. I feel like if
Oh
you're a
yeah.
team that is going to establish itself as a legitimate threat in either the AFC or the NFC, I feel like you need to have one or two wins that really say, oh, wow, this is a dangerous team that we need to look out for. And beating the Bills, who were in the AFC Championship game last season, and then beating Tampa Bay, who were playing really well so far. I know the Patriots have had easier opponents aside from those two teams, but being able to get those two wins against quality opponents, I feel just solidified the Patriots as a legitimate threat in the AFC. And I'm like you, I'm thrilled to have Drake May as our quarterback. He's been fantastic, but what I'm even more thrilled about is having Mike Vrabel as the head coach and having Josh McDaniels back as the offensive coordinator because any great quarterback in the NFL is going to need a great coach to help them develop.
Yeah.
Tom Brady had Bill Belichick early in his career, and Bill Belichick was a great person for Tom Brady to develop under. And Drake May did not have a great coach to develop under last season in Gerard Mayo, but this season he has not only a great head coach to
Yeah.
develop under, but also a great offensive coordinator to develop under, which has just made him play so much better this season than last season. Now, I've been watching sports for so long that I've gotten myself accustomed to the ebbs and flows of sports. And I think I talked about this
Sure.
on a recent podcast. So even if the Patriots, end up making the playoffs and being a legitimate threat in the AFC, I have a hard time believing there's not going to be a bump in the road at some point. I have a hard time believing they might not hit a bit of a rough stretch, maybe drop a game or two at some point throughout the rest of this season. I'm preparing myself for that because of the ebbs and flows of sports. But then at the same time, I can't deny that this team is for real because even though they've had an easy schedule, the Buffalo and Tampa Bay wins have really sent a message. Look out, the Patriots are back, and this Patriots team is nothing like the team that we've seen in the first several seasons since Tom Brady departed.
Yeah, I'm with you, Will. And it just makes me so happy. I love looking online and just seeing how angry non-Patriots fans are about this. It's great to be back. And I know I kind of feel I mean I don't feel bad, but I kind of feel bad for like I don't know, Ravens fans kind of because they've good teams kind of year after year these past couple of years. We had four really bad years and then bang, now we're back and here we are. And it's just like nothing happened. It was 4 years of bad just to kind of have it balance out, it's hard for us to be a bad team. And yeah, I don't know if it's luck. I don't know what it is. Or is it the Kraft family? Probably. It's probably the Kraft family, right? They probably play a big part in this. But yeah, I'm happy we're back. I just love seeing just how angry everyone is about it. Um, but I think I mean those bad seasons we had were really bad. That last Mac Jones season was atrocious. Last season with Gerard Mayo was really, really bad, and it is mostly Gerard Mayo's fault, kind of forcing Drake May to get in the mix when he didn't necessarily fit in yet. But I think it wasn't crazy to think that Gerard Mayo would be a good coach. I mean, he was involved with that organization, not only playing, but then also coaching and then becoming a head coach. So he was a part of the staff for so long. So it would sort of make sense that he would be that way, but I don't know if he's just stuck a little bit in the Belichick way or if he's just not built to be a head coach because you can really see the difference now with Mike Vrabel. And speaking of seeing the difference, look at this. I could see the difference in Will Byers in the Stranger Things. I can see the difference in how Noah Schnapp looks younger. Ah, man, that was rough. That was a rough transition. But what I'm going for is we got to Stranger Things first 5 minutes of Stranger Things season 5 revealed, and we have a de-age slash CGI Will Byers, and you can really see the difference between those guys because I don't think the CGI like Will Byers looks great. It kind of caught me off guard. I think that might just be why, because I wasn't expecting that to be what the scene was, and I also wasn't expecting them to show Vecna in the first 5 minutes. I thought when I saw the first few trailers for Stranger Things, I thought we'd have to kind of wait for Vecna, like till for like the second half of the series, just because he's this looming presence who just gets greater and greater till he finally comes back. But it seems like he's going to be a big part of the show right from the jump. From what I'm hearing, the scene that's shown at the end of the most recent Stranger Things trailer, where it looks like Will is going to be getting possessed, from what I'm hearing, is that's right at the beginning of the show. And if I had to bet on it, I'd bet that follows right after the scene that we just saw get released online. But from what I saw, oh, it just grabs you, doesn't it? Doesn't it just get you really into it? I love Stranger Things, and I was just so happy with what I'm seeing here. It just looks like they didn't miss a beat. Duffers didn't miss a beat. Got a few years in between. Doesn't matter. We're gonna produce at the same quality, and it's gonna feel like you're just watching more of what you saw last time in the best way possible, of course. I mean, it just looks like nothing changed, and I'm just so thrilled that this show is back, and I can't wait to watch it, and I can't wait to see what twists we have. I mean, we know there are a bunch of unexpected things. That's all I'm hearing about it online. There's just you're not ready for it, is what I'm hearing. You're not ready. And I'm just so excited to see what happens. And Will, were you a fan of the first 5 minutes that were released?
Yeah, so let me start by saying since those first 5 minutes were totally centered on the character of Will Byers, I will say I feel like Will Byers has had one of the more interesting Stranger Things character arcs from the standpoint of in season one, it's like he's compelling when he's on screen at the start of the first episode of season one, and he's compelling when he finally gets brought back at the end of the season. But then for the majority of season one, he's nowhere to be found because he's gone missing. And then
Yeah,
in season two, they put him front and center. I feel like it's almost kind of like Eleven and Will are co-main characters in season two. That's how prominent Will was in that season. But then for these last two seasons, like season three, I remember a scene where Will wants to play D&D with his friends, but they don't want to anymore because they've outgrown that. And then he and Mike get into an argument, and
yeah.
then Will tears down his childhood fort. That
Fort Myers, yeah.
was a really good Will Byers scene from season three, but I can't think of another really good Will Byers scene from season three aside from that. And then in season
It's
four,
even, yeah,
yeah, I mean, he has that scene in the van with Mike, and then he has that emotional scene with his brother Jonathan in the final episode. But that's only two scenes out of an entire season. So I feel like season three, we had one really good Will Byers scene, and then season four, we had two really good Will Byers scenes. But then I just don't feel they gave him much to do in seasons three and four aside from that. So to me, I just feel the signs keep piling up that he's going to be back to being front and center again this season, and maybe have it kind of echo season two, where he and Eleven were kind of co-main characters. And I feel that way not just because of them putting Will pretty front and center in the trailers that have come out, especially the first date announcement teaser, and then
yeah.
having the first 5 minutes of the season be a flashback to when he was in the Upside Down. But they also came out with another Stranger Things poster recently, and they have three characters front and center, and then they got people to the right and the left of those three characters. But the three characters who were clearly, I thought, the most prominent in that poster were Eleven, Will, and Vecna. Those were the three that they put the
100%.
most front and center, which just gives me the sense that I think this is going to be the most Will Byers that we're going to get since season two, which I'm happy to see because I think that's a compelling character, and I think there's definitely more to do
Yeah,
with that
I
character.
agree.
And then in terms of the first 5 minutes, I mean, look, you can't deny it. They do what they do so well. They hook you right out of the gate, starting the season with a flashback to young Will Byers when he was in the Upside Down. Super, super compelling. So you can't deny they just hook you right out of the gate. The only thought that came to my mind is okay, they go right away in the first 5 minutes revealing that young Will Byers had had an encounter with Vecna, and Vecna knew about Will while he was in the Upside Down. And I feel like that's a really big reveal that they could have maybe held off on revealing instead
Yeah,
of just revealing it right away in the first 5 minutes. So that was one thought that I had come to mind. But aside from that, you can't deny that those first 5 minutes do hook you right out of the gate, as is the case with every Stranger Things season.
For sure. And you say that thinking that, yeah, I'm surprised they told us that, but like think about it. If they're gonna show us that now, what could they possibly have left to show us? And that makes you think, what are the twists gonna be this season? Because that's, like you said, a relatively big twist, you know? And they're telling us now. So the stuff that they're not telling us, you already know is just gonna be off the wall insane. And I'm glad that Will seems to be returning to the forefront. I mean, I think they intentionally kind of sidelined him so people would notice and realize, oh yeah, he's kind of central. And that also kind of hinted that he did encounter Vecna. Although, if you'll notice, Will did not wake up in that scene, so it would make sense that he didn't say anything about Vecna. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how many times I can say it, but I just can't wait to see what happens with this show. I can't even imagine a world where Stranger Things is over. You know, it's been a pop culture staple since 2016. I mean, I always kind of base popular things off if my grandmother would know what it is, you know? So I base off, is this artist popular? Sometimes for Super Bowl halftime shows, I kind of pick good halftime shows in my mind based off if my grandmother knows who they are, because that means it's a popular thing and it's has a far reach, you know. My grandmother knows what Stranger Things is. That shows you. I mean, it's a generational show. It's a once in a lifetime type of thing. It's basically a bunch of mini movies, and that's literally what a TV show is. But this is more than like every episode is the quality of a movie, you know, especially with season 4 and especially with what we're seeing in season 5 so far. I'm interested to see what deaths we had this season. I think at some point we'll do an episode where we kind of predict the deaths um in the seasons and see which, like, I don't know, which characters are gonna die. I don't know. I think it's gonna be bad. I think it's gonna be really sad when the season, the deaths. I think Steve's gonna die, is what I'm trying to say. I think Steve Harrington is gonna die this season. And I'm having trouble just coping with it just because he's such an iconic character. People have so much love for him. But, it's we said it, Will, and I think it's time to say it again. Death makes movies better, you know? Like, it makes them carry more weight. It makes you remember it, you know? And I think a Steve Harrington death could really make this show memorable. You know what isn't memorable? The worst movies that came out this year, because Will kind of wanted to take a chance and just think about some of the worst movies that came out this year. Yeah, we'll do our yearly movie ranking, sure. But sometimes you just gotta talk about the bad. And I feel like this was just a good time to do it because we're nearing the end of the year. We're getting closer and closer. And I just feel like now is just a good time to give people a little heads up. And there's still room for it to change, just for everyone listening. So for our movie ranking, it might be end up being different. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to take a moment and just tell everyone my 5 least favorite films this year, just because this year's had mostly good films, but I find that the 5 I have were pretty, pretty, pretty solid in terms of bad films. So in last place, the worst movie of the year I have is Captain America: Brave New World. We talked about this movie time and time again. It's really just not good. What can you say? The visual effects are terrible, the story's terrible, lackluster, the villain's pathetically boring. Sam Wilson is a good character, but was not handled correctly. Same goes with Harrison Ford. And number 4. have Jurassic World. Was it Rebirth?
Yep.
Um, I had some feelings going into it, as we've discussed on the podcast before, but they had the chance to do something different, and they didn't really do anything different. It was just kind of more of the same boring action. I think what the Jurassic franchise needs to do is kind of switch up the genre. That's what I'm feeling. They're just action movies, you know? If you can make it a survival, you can make it a apocalypse type movie almost, especially with dinosaurs roaming the earth. That would be really cool. Or even a horror movie. I think for the future of Jurassic World, they should get a little bit more experimental with the tone and the genre that they're trying to get across. And I think that would just make for a much more interesting experience. Then at number three, I have Happy Gilmore 2, which isn't like that bad of a movie. It's actually kind of funny, but it's also just low quality, low effort. So despite me having fun with it, I just can't rank it that high when there are movies that clearly had more thought and care put into them. And number two, this and Happy Gilmore could go back and forth, you know what I mean? They're interchangeable. This is the film to pick up on it was released on Prime Video. It stars Pete Davidson, Keke Palmer. It's an all right movie. I had fun with it. I watched it randomly. I'm a big Pete Davidson fan, which was my main draw, and he was funny. There were some funny scenes. But I mean Eddie Murphy was in it, so it's always great to see him. He's real funny. But aside from that, it was kind of generic. That's what I would use to describe it. What's not generic is my best worst movie of the year, and that was the Minecraft movie. I think it was so bad it's good, but it was also trying to do that. Like it was trying to be so bad it's good. And you can tell they put thought behind it. The director of this is the director of Napoleon Dynamite, which is kind of a dumb, fun type of movie, and you can have a lot of fun with it without it being, I don't know, some sort of Oscar-winning masterpiece or whatever. So it's definitely a turn your brain off fun comedy for sure. And I like how experimental they got with the comedy. There were some really, yeah, this is kind of straight out of Napoleon Dynamite type of funny scenes. And it didn't really like have anything to do with Minecraft, which as a Minecraft fan was a little bit weird. But as a movie fan, you gotta have fun with it, but you also have to realize it's just not that high quality of a movie. And there were just better movies that came out this year. What about you, Will?
I think this is always a fun assignment talking about what you think the worst films of the year are.
Yeah.
And when I wrote down all of the movies that I've seen this year, as much as I wanted to have five definitive ones that I could definitively say these are the worst five movies that I've seen this year, when I wrote them all down, there were three that stuck out to me as by far the worst that I've seen this year. And it's not that there aren't others that aren't flawed, but the others I feel like just aren't quite as bad as these three that I'm about to mention and that I'm about to talk about. And I'm going to do them in no particular order here because I feel like any of them could really take the top spot because that's how flawed all three of them are. One is what you it is one that you mentioned, Captain America: Brave New World. I think far and away the worst
Yeah.
Marvel movie that has come out this year. You essentially save the Red Hulk as the big reveal at the end of the movie, except it's not a big reveal because they showed the Red Hulk in
Marketing,
the
yeah.
trailer and in
In
marketing.
the
So
poster.
yeah, so
Even if you
why
looked at
is
the poster, you'd get spoiled.
exactly. So how can that be a big reveal when you
I'm with
already
you.
revealed it ahead of the movie? I thought if you're asking me Marvel movies to put into the bad category, that one I put into the bad category in a heartbeat. Another one for me, and I am so sad to say this because the the Miyagi verse, as the Cobra Kai creators called it, and I call it the Miyagi-verse so that we can kind of find a term that can combine both Cobra Kai and all the Karate Kid movies. I am not somebody out here to hate on the Miyagi verse, even though even though it's had its fair share of flaws, with Cobra Kai season 6 and some of the Karate Kid movies after the original. I don't want to hate on the Miyagi verse because it's brought in so much joy. I mean, the original Karate Kid movie is amazing. The first 5 seasons of Cobra Kai I thought were amazing, with the fifth season being, I thought, even greater than the first 4 seasons. Not that I didn't
Yeah.
love the first 4 seasons. So I hate having to say bad things about the Miyagi verse, but I can't not say that with Karate Kid Legends. I think it's just horrible. Daniel LaRusso, I would say is like barely in the movie. And even though I have to refer to this person as he who must not be named because he's currently suspended from the podcast for, I mean, like third or fourth. I mean, too many times to even
Can't even
count
count it.
at this point. Exactly. Yeah. But when me and he who must not be named were watching this film together, he who must not be named made a comment that I got to give it to him. I thought was spot on. He said, "This isn't even a movie," and I think there is legitimacy and truth to that because there are movies that can move by too fast and have pacing problems. But this was a movie, it was moving by so fast and going so from thing to thing to thing to thing that it didn't even feel like a movie because instead of there being scenes, it would feel like they were concepts of scenes. And instead of movie characters, it felt like there were concepts of movie characters. So
Ugh.
I hate to say this because I love the franchise so much, and I will talk positively any day of the week about the original Karate Kid movie and the first 5 seasons of Cobra Kai. But
Sure.
I thought this was horrendous, and this is how horrendous I think it is. You know how flawed I think Cobra Kai season 6 is. I think
Sure.
this movie
I
makes
do too.
Cobra Kai season 6 look like a masterpiece. That's how
Oh.
bad I think it is. So Karate Kid Legends. And then last but not least, another one that you mentioned, the Minecraft movie. I think that they, as you said, were kind of going for that so bad that it's good
Yeah. That's fun.
vibe.
That's fun.
Yeah, and I could see some people enjoying it for that reason, but I feel like you also just can't deny how many flaws are in there and how much comedy and jokes just don't land. And I could see if you're somebody who is really into Minecraft and has a lot of experience with it as a video game, I could see someone like that falling more into the being able to enjoy it because it's so bad that it's good.
Yeah.
But for me, as somebody who's not really a video games person and doesn't have familiarity with that game, I I was um I was just more prone to look for the flaws and the things that didn't work in that movie. And I think there's quite a lot that doesn't work. I think it's a flawed film.
Yeah, I'm with you. There are definitely a lot of things that just don't work. And sometimes you just have to embrace it, and that's what I did when I watched it. And it was more about the experience of watching it because it was sweeping the nation when it was out. And I think that's why it was as big as it was, just because it was a trend. And that's not always a bad thing, and it supports the film industry. So overall, I think the fact that it exists is kind of a good thing, despite it not really being a good movie. But you know what? That wraps up this episode of the Everything Podcast. Will has a cold and was still able to deliver an outstanding episode. So, yeah, this is like the Michael Jordan flu game over here. Very impressive stuff. So, thank you all so much for watching this episode of the Everything Podcast. Will, thank you for performing like Michael Jordan when he had the flu. And we'll see you next time.